The parking lot asphalt was still warm under my boots as I walked toward my heavy-duty truck. Every muscle in my broad frame was screaming from another grueling week of sleeping barely 3 hours a night. That was when I heard it. Heavy, frantic footsteps pounding on the tarmac behind me, getting closer by the second. "Daniel, Daniel, wait." Julian Bradley's voice cracked like he had swallowed crushed glass. I did not turn around. My hand was already gripping the cold metal of my truck door handle. My resignation email had been sent exactly 6 minutes ago. The same email that was currently sitting in the digital inboxes of our chief executive officer, the entire executive board, and half the senior leadership team. The same email that contained an attachment showing our fourth quarter revenue numbers, a staggering $452 million, right next to a photograph of a $12 coffee shop voucher. My name is Daniel Vance, and until about 6 minutes ago, I was the Senior Portfolio Director at Aegis Financial Solutions. That title sounds impressive, does it not? It should. I had earned it through 8 long years of dragging this company from mediocre performance to record-breaking quarters. I had built robust analytical systems, managed large teams across 4 time zones, and personally closed high-stakes deals that made our competitors physically ill. But here's what that title really meant. I was the person they called at 2 in the morning when a critical deal was falling apart. I was the one who missed my wedding anniversary dinner because a client in Singapore needed hand-holding. I was the one who had not taken a real vacation in 3 years because Julian constantly insisted that nobody else understood the complex accounts. Julian's footsteps were getting closer. I could hear him gasping for air, his lungs struggling to keep pace. He was not exactly the athletic type. Probably the most exercise he had gotten all year was walking from his corner office to the executive dining room. I threw my leather bag into the passenger seat and finally turned around to face him. He was bent over, hands on his knees, his face the color of a ripe tomato. His tie was crooked, and there was a dark coffee stain on his shirt that had been there since our morning meeting. The morning meeting where he had handed me that insulting voucher. You cannot just," he wheezed, his voice trembling. "You cannot just leave like this." I crossed my arms and leaned against the side of my truck. The metal was hot through my blazer, but I did not care. I had been burning up from the inside with resentment for months anyway. What was a little external heat? "Actually, Julian, I can. It is called at-will employment. It works both ways, remember? You love reminding my team of that during layoff season." His face shifted from tomato red to something closer to a bruised purple. You sent that email to everyone. Do you have any idea what you have done?" I did know. That was exactly why I had sent it. But let me back up and tell you how I got here. Standing in a parking lot watching my former director have what appeared to be a minor cardiac event. 3 months ago, our chief executive officer, Gordon Prescott, announced the most ambitious expansion in company history. Aegis was going to acquire 2 smaller firms, launch a new tech platform, and break into 3 new markets simultaneously. It was aggressive, maybe even reckless, but the potential payoff was enormous. Gordon stood in front of the entire company during an all-hands meeting and said, "This is going to require sacrifice from all of us. But when we pull this off, everyone who contributed will be rewarded beyond their expectations." Everyone nodded. Everyone applauded. Everyone went back to their desks and prepared for the storm. Except the storm that hit my department was not just bad weather. It was a Category 5 hurricane that lasted 12 weeks straight. My team of 8 people was suddenly managing the work that should have required 20. 2 people quit in the first month because they could not handle the stress. Julian did not let me backfill their positions. "We need to stay lean during the transition," he said, his voice dripping with corporate platitudes. "It is temporary." Temporary. That word should be banned from the corporate vocabulary. I started working longer hours. 70-hour weeks became 80-hour weeks. 80 became 90. My wife, Clara, would leave for her office at 7 in the morning, and I would already be on my second conference call. She would come home at 6 in the evening, and I would still be typing away, building financial models, reviewing contracts, and managing crisis after crisis. She would go to bed at 11, and I would still be awake. The blue light from my laptop screen, the only illumination in our dark home office. Daniel, this is not sustainable, Clara told me one night around the 7th week of the merger. She was standing in the doorway of my study in her robe, holding a mug of herbal tea she had made for me. It had probably gone cold an hour ago, while I finished a presentation for the European market entry. I know, I said, not looking up from my dual screens. Just a few more weeks. Once the acquisition closes, everything will settle down. You said that 3 weeks ago, she replied softly. She was right, I had said that. But what was I supposed to do? My remaining team was drowning under the workload. The clients were demanding constant updates. Julian was breathing down my neck for status reports every 6 hours. Someone had to hold the entire structure together. Clara set the tea down on my desk, carefully moving a stack of financial folders so she would not spill on them. That small gesture of care made my chest feel tight. When was the last time I had actually had a real conversation with my wife that did not involve me mumbling short responses while staring at spreadsheets? I am worried about you, Daniel, she said quietly, placing a hand on my shoulder. You are running on fumes. Yesterday you fell asleep standing up while brushing your teeth. I had laughed it off then, but she was not wrong. I was falling apart in slow motion. My skin was pale and dry. I had started getting tension headaches that felt like someone was driving a steel spike through my skull. I had lost weight because I kept forgetting to eat meals, just grabbing whatever was easiest. Usually black coffee and whatever protein bars we had lying around. But the worst part was that I had started to feel like this was normal. Like this was just what success required of a man. Julian certainly seemed to think so. Every time I flagged that we were severely understaffed, he would give me the same dismissive response. High performers do not make excuses, Daniel. They find solutions. So I found solutions. I automated parts of our reporting workflow. I trained my remaining team members to handle more complex client portfolios. I personally took on the work of 3 senior-level positions, and somehow, impossibly, we did not just survive, we crushed it. The acquisition closed ahead of schedule. The tech platform launched with minimal technical issues. We secured major clients in all 3 new markets within the first month. Our fourth quarter numbers did not just meet projections, we exceeded them by 47%. $452 million in revenue, the highest quarter in company history. I knew these numbers intimately because I had built the models that made them possible. I had been on the calls that closed the deals. I had worked 88 hours in a single week during the final push to get the platform launched on time. 88 hours. That is not a typo. I tracked it because a part of my analytical mind did not believe it was possible until I saw it written down. Monday, 18 hours. Tuesday, 21 hours. Wednesday, 19 hours. Thursday, 22 hours. Friday, 16 hours. And that Friday was only because I physically passed out at my desk around midnight, and Clara came into the office and dragged me to bed. When I woke up Saturday morning, every part of my body hurt. It was not the sore feeling you get after a heavy workout. It was a deep ache like I had been in a collision. My hands were cramping from typing. My neck was frozen from hunching over my screen. My eyes were so dry and irritated that I could barely open them. Clara brought me breakfast in beds, scrambled eggs, toast, and fresh orange juice. She sat on the edge of the mattress and watched me eat with an expression of quiet concern. "What?" I asked, my voice hoarse. "I am just trying to figure out if this is worth it," she said. "Whatever they are going to give you as a bonus for these last few months, is it worth what this is doing to your health and to us?" I did not have an answer, but I thought about Gordon's promise. Everyone who contributed will be rewarded beyond their expectations. My expectations were high. I had personally generated somewhere around $95 million of that $452 million in revenue. By a conservative estimate, my work had earned the company a massive profit that would make a normal person's head spin. A week later, Gordon sent out another company-wide email. The subject line read, "Record Quarter Celebration and Gratitude." My heart picked up speed as I opened it. This was it. This was where they would announce the bonuses, the promotions, the rewards for everyone who had sacrificed so much. The email was 3 paragraphs of corporate congratulations. Lots of words like synergy and stakeholder value and operational excellence. And then at the bottom, department heads will be recognizing team members individually for their contributions. Thank you for your continued dedication. That was it. No mention of bonuses, no announcement of promotions, just a vague statement about department heads doing recognition. I sat back in my chair and stared at the screen. Around me, I could hear my team members reacting. Someone laughed, but it was a bitter sound. Someone else muttered something I could not hear, but I could definitely understand the sentiment. Well, said Justin Cole, one of my senior analysts, I guess we were getting bagels in the break room or something. He was not far off. 2 days later, Julian Bradley sent out a meeting invitation. The subject line was Fourth Quarter Performance Recognition Portfolio Team. It was scheduled for 4 in the afternoon on a Friday, always a telling sign. Nothing of value ever happens at 4 on a Friday. The meeting was held in one of the small conference rooms, the kind with no windows and harsh fluorescent lighting. My team filed in, and you could feel the exhaustion coming off everyone in waves. Justin Cole had dark circles under his eyes that looked like bruises. Brenda Scott, my lead account manager, had started bringing her laptop to the restroom because she was on calls so constantly she could not afford normal breaks. Roger Miller had missed his daughter's school play. Helen Taylor had postponed her wedding by 6 months because there was no way she could take time off. These people had given everything, we all had. Julian walked in carrying a small shopping bag from a chain coffee shop. He was smiling, which should have been my first warning sign. Julian only smiled when he was about to deliver news he knew was bad, but was going to pretend was good. Team, he said, setting the bag down on the table. I wanted to personally thank each of you for your extraordinary efforts this quarter. What we accomplished together is nothing short of remarkable. We had heard this before, the corporate gratitude speech. I glanced at Justin, who was methodically clicking a pen. The executive team is thrilled with our performance, Julian continued. And while we cannot do major compensation adjustments outside of the normal review cycle, I wanted to do something to show my appreciation for each of you. There it was, the catch. There is always a catch. He reached into the shopping bag and started pulling out small envelopes. He walked around the table, handing one to each person. When he got to me, he pressed the envelope into my hand and actually patted me on the shoulder. Especially you, Daniel. Your leadership during this period was exceptional. I opened the envelope. Inside was a gift card to the coffee shop 3 blocks from our office. I turned it over. $12. I looked up and saw my team members opening their envelopes. It was the same thing. Everyone got a $12 coffee shop voucher. I know it is small, Julian said, and at least he had the decency to sound slightly embarrassed, but I wanted you all to be able to treat yourselves. Appreciate the little things, right? The silence in that room was deafening. Brenda was staring at her voucher like it might spontaneously combust. Roger's jaw was clenched so tight. Helen looked like she was going to cry. And something inside me just snapped. Not visibly. I did not throw the voucher at Julian's head. I did not scream or storm out. I smiled, a real genuine smile. You are absolutely right, Julian, I said. We should appreciate the little things. He looked relieved. Exactly. It is the thought that counts. The thought that our 88-hour weeks, our missed family time, our health, our record-breaking performance that earned the company $452 million was worth $12. The meeting ended. Everyone shuffled out clutching their vouchers like they were evidence at a crime scene. I went back to my desk and sat down. My hands were shaking, but not from exhaustion. It was from rage, pure, crystallized rage. This was not just about the money, though that was insulting enough. It was about being told my value could be measured in the cost of 2 laddies. I had given them everything, and they had given me $12. I looked at the voucher sitting on my desk. Then I looked at my screen, at the financial dashboard that showed our fourth quarter numbers in real time. $452 million. I knew exactly what I needed to do. I opened my email and started a new message. The to line got Julian's email address, but the CC line was where it got interesting. Gordon Prescott, Chief Executive Officer, Diane Foster, Chief Financial Officer, the entire Executive Committee, the Board Liaison, the Human Resources Director, and every single person who had been forwarding around congratulatory emails. Subject line, resignation effective immediately. My fingers flew across the keyboard. No corporate speak, no polite fictions, just the truth, clean and sharp. Dear Julian, I am writing to inform you of my resignation from Aegis Financial Solutions, effective immediately. I am attaching two items to this email. The first is our fourth quarter revenue report, which shows record-breaking performance of $452 million. The second is a photograph of the $12 coffee shop voucher I received today, as recognition for my contribution to these numbers. During the last quarter, I worked an average of 78 hours per week. In the final week of the tech platform launch, I worked 88 hours. I managed a team that was understaffed by 55% while taking on the responsibilities of 3 senior-level positions. I personally closed deals representing approximately $95 million in revenue. I did this while being told repeatedly that high performers do not make excuses. You are right about one thing, Julian. We should appreciate the little things. So I am appreciating the little time I have left with my health, my marriage, and my self-respect by choosing to no longer spend it at this company. My laptop, badge, and corporate credit card will be on my desk. Best regards, Daniel Vance. I attached the revenue report. Then I took a photo of the voucher with my phone and attached that too. My cursor hovered over the send button for half a second. Then I clicked it. I stood up from my desk. Around me, the office was still buzzing with end-of-day activity. None of them knew that several executive email inboxes had just received a grenade. I gathered my personal items. A photo of Clara and me from our honeymoon in Colorado, a coffee mug my team had given me, and a small succulent plant. Everything fit in my shoulder bag easily. 8 years at this company, and my entire presence could be erased in 90 seconds. I left my laptop on the desk, screen still open to that financial dashboard. My badge went next to it, corporate credit card on top. I walked past Justin's desk on my way out. I just quit, I told him. His eyes went wide. Wait, what? I sent my resignation about 3 minutes ago, I said. You will probably want to update your resume. Things are about to get weird around here. I did not wait for his response. I just headed for the elevator, my bag over my shoulder, feeling lighter with every step. The elevator ride down from the 14th floor felt like shedding layers of old skin. By the time I reached the lobby, I was almost giddy. The late afternoon sun hit me as I walked out of the building. The parking lot stretched out in front of me. I was halfway across the asphalt when I heard the building doors slam open behind me. Daniel. Julian's voice. I did not turn around. I kept walking. Daniel, wait. The footsteps started fast, getting closer. I could hear him breathing hard. He was running. I got to my truck, threw my bag inside, and turned to face him. He was a mess. Face red, tie askew, that coffee stain even more prominent. He skidded to a stop about 6 feet from me, gasping for air. You cannot just leave like this. I crossed my arms. Actually, Julian, I can. It is called at-will employment. Works both ways. Remember, you sent that email to everyone, he sputtered. I did. Do you have any idea what you have done? Made sure everyone knows exactly how this company treats its top performers. His face somehow got redder. You have embarrassed me. You have embarrassed the entire leadership team. Gordon has already called me twice. Diane wants a meeting first thing Monday morning. Sound like a rough weekend for you, I said. This is completely unprofessional, Julian shouted, and that was when I started laughing. Unprofessional? I said. Julian, you gave me a $12 voucher after I worked 88 hours in 1 week. You told me to appreciate the little things while the executives are planning their bonus trips. You want to talk about unprofessional? The voucher was a gesture, he sputtered. I have budget constraints. You know how these things work. Bonuses get decided at the executive level, not by department heads. So you thought $12 was better than nothing? Look, Daniel, you are upset, I get it. Take the weekend. On Monday, we can talk about this. I am sure we can work something out. Work what out? You are going to suddenly triple my salary. Give me the team resources I have been begging you to hire. Acknowledge that you have been running us into the ground? No, I said firmly. We cannot, because I am done discussing. I am done managing up while being treated like I am worth $12. He changed tactics, his voice dropping to something that was probably supposed to sound concerned. Think about your career, Daniel. If you walk away like this, if you leave that email out there, you will get a reputation. People talk. This industry is smaller than you think. There it was, the veiled threat. Speaking of reputation and people talking, Julian, Let us talk about the documents I reviewed last week, I said, leaning forward. The updated intellectual property waiver and the non-compete extension you claimed I signed during the first phase of the acquisition. I checked the digital signature logs. You forged my signature, Julian. That is a direct violation of California Penal Code, Section 470. Since it is a clear forgery, that agreement is void ab initio. It is completely null and void. Which means I can walk across the street to Titanium Capital Group tomorrow, and there is not a single thing this company can do to stop me. In fact, if your legal department wants to argue, my next phone call is to the state prosecutor for document forgery and fraud. And let us not forget the breach of fiduciary duty you and Gordon committed by misrepresenting our group's compensation capacity to the board, exposing Aegis to a massive operational risk. How do you think the board will react when they find out your little forgery is about to cost them their biggest portfolio? Julian deflated, his shoulders sagging, his face turning pale. You are right, he whispered. I should have been honest. I got in my truck. Julian stood there watching me. I started the engine. I rolled down the window. One more thing, Julian. That $12 voucher, I am going to frame it. Put it up in my office as a reminder to never again mistake my value for what someone else decides to pay me. I drove away and did not look back. The drive home was only 20 minutes, but it felt like crossing into a completely different world. I called Clara from the car to tell her that I had officially walked out, and for the first time in 3 years, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. When I pulled into our driveway, she was waiting on the front porch. She wrapped me in a tight, protective hug. You okay? She asked softly into my shoulder. I will be, I said, taking a deep breath of the fresh evening air. We went inside and the warm aroma of home-cooked lasagna greeted me. We sat at our dining room table, having an actual, uninterrupted dinner for the first time in months. I told her everything about the $12 voucher, the email, the parking lot confrontation, and the legal hammer I had dropped on Julian. Clara listened intently, squeezing my hand as I detailed the signature forgery I had discovered. She assured me we would be perfectly fine. Her steady salary as a senior systems analyst was more than enough to cover our mortgage, and our savings were solid. I did not need to rush into another toxic environment. That night, I slept for 12 hours of deep, dreamless sleep. When I woke up Saturday morning, my phone was buzzing with 58 notifications. Justin Cole, Brenda Scott, and Helen Taylor had all sent text messages, letting me know they had submitted their immediate resignations too. My viral email had given them the final push they needed. I also had a LinkedIn message from Lawrence Brooks of Brooks Executive Search. He wrote that my resignation was the most magnificent and legally sharp move he had witnessed in 25 years of recruiting and wanted to connect me with several competitive firms. On Monday morning, board member Grace Reyes called my personal phone. She was incredibly apologetic. She explained that my email had triggered an emergency board meeting over the weekend. The board members were absolutely horrified by the stark contrast between our $452 million in revenue and the $12 coffee voucher. She informed me that Gordon Prescott was being asked to step down as chief executive officer, and Julian Bradley was being stripped of his director title. She offered me my position back with a vice president title, a massive compensation bump, and complete authority over department resources. I thanked her but politely declined. I told her that a culture that requires public shaming to respect its employees is fundamentally broken and cannot be fixed by simple policy adjustments. Within a week, my resignation had leaked to an industry news site and gone viral, serving as a cautionary tale across the sector. I received interview invitations from 5 different companies. The most interesting meeting occurred on a Tuesday afternoon at a quiet coffee shop. Edward Rothman, the chief executive officer of Titanium Capital Group, sat across from me. He admitted that my departure had already cost Aegis 3 of their largest institutional clients, who had immediately moved their business to Titanium because they no longer trusted Aegis's leadership. Edward made me a firm offer for the position of Vice President of Strategic Development. The compensation package included a base salary, 55% higher than what I made at Aegis, substantial equity, and a contract clause guaranteeing that my team would always be staffed adequately. Most importantly, it included 25 days of mandatory annual leave. I accepted the offer and spent the next 3 weeks resting, hiking, and reconnecting with Clara. My first year at Titanium Capital was an absolute revelation. We achieved all our strategic goals without anyone working unsustainable hours. When we had a successful quarter, Edward threw a genuine celebration with catered dinner, and he publicly thanked me for bringing integrity and leadership to the company. Meanwhile, Aegis suffered a catastrophic collapse. Within 2 months, 12 senior managers left. Without my team, the new tech platform experienced severe operational failures. Their stock price plummeted 18%, and their new market expansions failed. About 8 months after my resignation, I ran into Gordon Prescott in an elevator at a major industry conference. I was there as a keynote speaker on sustainable high performance. He looked tired and aged. He admitted that he had focused entirely on growth numbers and forgot about the people generating them, acknowledging that the downfall of Aegis was his responsibility. I thanked him for his honesty. My keynote speech was a success, and when I shared the story of the $12 coffee voucher, the audience of executives went completely silent. Later that night, as I updated my career blog, Know Your Worth, which had grown to 75,000 followers, I received an email from Julian Bradley. He apologized sincerely, admitting he had been a coward who chose executive approval over protecting his team, and noted that his demotion was completely deserved. I read his apology, closed my laptop, and went to join Clara for dinner. The $12 voucher remains framed in my office, a reminder of the day I stood up and claimed my worth.